Your issue is not a lack of clients. Okay. Your issue is a lack of connection with people who could become clients. Well, hey, welcome to the Coaches Plaza. My name's Amanda Kaufman, and I help coaches build a business they absolutely love. And if you are new here, say hi, say new in the chat. If you are an old friend, drop friend in the chat so I can say hello and good morning and all the good things. And this week, we are talking about something that actually grows your coaching business, right? It's not doing more math. It's not running some new AI prompt. It is connections. So today we're going to be talking about how do you build your coaching business through relationships. If you're here for it, I'm super excited you're here. Now, if I use the word networking and that makes you cringe, then definitely listen up, because it's very possible that, someone who hears the word networking and they're like, they're collecting views, they're collecting followers, but they're not necessarily making the necessary connections to have a successful coaching business. And hey, if you're joining us on Instagram and you got to go anywhere, make sure you come join us in the Clients Over Chaos free group. It is at next5clients.com, and you can get the full replay of everything that we're talking about today here. And that goes for you too, Clients Over Chaos community. So, hey, if you've been collecting kind of these connections, maybe even collecting business cards, but you still really feel disconnected, this is the training for you on a Monday. I'm so excited to go over this. Oh my gosh, we're going to be covering some really, really huge things. I'll never forget this. When I was in my first year or so of building my business, I relied on networking really heavily as a main marketing channel. And you might be like, marketing channel? Nah, babe, I don't want to market, so I'm going to go network. Look, there's plenty of people that believe the same as you, but trust when I say it is a marketing channel, because you are getting out there. You are advertising your business and your availability to help people whenever you go to a networking event. So let's just call it what it is. It's a marketing channel. But I'll never forget, about a year in, I was at a coach's event and we were all, I think it was in a pub, so we all had a drink, there were some pool tables, there were some couches, it was a very laid back thing. And this woman comes in from the door of this lounge, and literally she went as fast as she could around the entire room, just handing out her cards like she was a blackjack dealer. You know what I mean? Just handing out these business cards. And it was just hi there, hi there, hi there. And I am not exaggerating. She was quite literally in a run, moving around this networking group to slam business cards into our hands. And I think about that story and I think, wow, I feel like it's a start to do that, but maybe there's some more here. Here's the thing. You're going to get so much more out of your business and your life by having a few very high quality relationships versus thousands upon thousands of meaningless ones. And I know I got that advice from my mama growing up, right? It's good to date around. It's good to meet new people, but the core people, that shouldn't be a huge number, right? When people say that it's your net worth is in your network, I think that's partially true, but most people don't activate their net worth in their network because they're not really connecting with them. Now, here's the truth. Your next 5 clients and my next 5 clients and Tony Robbins' next 5 clients are for sure in his immediate network. He already has it. If he wanted to, he could just be he could make 5 phone calls, have 5 clients. I'm super confident of that. But the thing is that you're not going to reach people by staying in the shadows. So today I want to just share with you my philosophy in connection and networking. And this applies if you're doing online marketing. This applies if you're doing offline marketing, going into rooms with people. This applies for if you're in coaching programs or masterminds, it universally applies. And I'm super excited to share it with you because look, when I started my business, I was anti-social media, at the time. I had a lot of compelling arguments made about why social media was evil and why being on there would be terrible. I've clearly changed my mind. But back then, I hadn't yet. And I still wanted to be a really successful coach. And here's what's really nutty. I truly believe that the success I get to now enjoy with my social media content is a direct result of me being offline for a couple of years. Call me crazy, but here's why. Have you ever noticed, like, when you go on a doom scroll, or if you're just scrolling on social media, so much of it's like it's noise, right? It's just noise. It's like a lot of it is just kind of low quality. There's a big problem with misinformation online. Like, there's just like terrible data, right? And I think that that represents a huge opportunity for society, but also for coaches to really step up. Like, what are we contributing to this noise? And I really firmly believe that it was the quality of real conversations that I had with real human beings that told me what people found interesting and what they didn't find interesting, what they found useful, what they didn't find useful. Because there's something about getting the feedback loop of somebody staring at you with glassy eyes that you're like, wait, that didn't land. So you try again right there in the moment. Networking is like that. Like, you could do that in a relationship. Look, I've taught some of my clients some of the things that I'm going to continue to go over in today's live. And no kidding, they've picked up clients at baby showers, birthday parties, right? Out camping, like on airplanes. There are people everywhere. Your issue is not a lack of clients. Okay, your issue is a lack of connection with people who could become clients. What? She said it on a Monday. Look, it's not my fault. I went for a walk today. My energy is fantastic. But I'm going to say it again just for your notes. The issue for a coach that doesn't have enough clients is never actually the reality of a lack of clients. It is the reality of a lack of connected conversations with people who could become clients. Right? Because your potential clients are going to come out of trusted, rapport built professional relationships. Okay, so I'm not saying you got to beg your bestie for business. In fact, probably don't, leave your besties for brunch, leave your besties for the whining after a hard day. We all need it. We all need those friends. But I'm saying that, like, your next coaching client is probably going to come from a connected conversation with someone who sees your expert positioning. They see that you're a professional at what you do and they want more. Isn't that just such a relief that it's never a lack of people? There's always people, right? There's always people. It's the quality of the connection with people who can afford coaching that makes the biggest difference. And you can do that online, offline, all the time, right? So, okay, here's 3 connection shifts that I learned and I applied, and I'm going to pass it on to you because I'm telling you what, when you can have high quality, real human conversations, your content goes up. In quality, in interactivity, yes, there we go. Always, right? Always. It's always this connection. So the thing is that I want you to feel a lot of confidence that online marketing or social media marketing, even paid marketing, can work for you when you have the right message. Oh my God, you guys. Billboards could work for you if you had exactly the right message. You know what I mean? Like, the issue is not actually your marketing so much as what are you marketing? What is that core message? Are you speaking to a person who has a problem that is of an appropriate magnitude? We call that a PAM around here. If you're talking to a person about a problem of appropriate magnitude and you are presenting a viable, credible set of solutions around that problem, you will always have business. You will always have business. You do not have to worry about somebody else being better than you at this. You don't have to worry about the competition. Why? Because everyone needs a coach. Everyone needs a coach, right? Maybe you're not the coach for them, but everyone needs a coach. And if you do just like a quick scan of your friend group, does everyone have a paid coach in their corner? Does everyone? Right? Because, like, honestly, when I scan my friend group and I'm like, none of y'all are working with a coach, that actually is really amazing because it means there's so much opportunity. I think everyone needs a coach. What do you think? Do you agree with that? Everyone should be working with a coach to go to their next level? Probably. So here's 3 connection shifts that can make your networking feel really natural and then by extension will be more profitable, right? Because all things being equal, people buy from their friends, and all things not being equal, people still buy from their friends. People promote their friends. People are connected to their friends, right? So how do we get more professional friends? And maybe the word friend doesn't vibe for you. Maybe you've got a very specific term that you want to use. Colleagues, okay? Colleagues, chosen colleagues, versus distant acquaintances. Y'all, I could do a whole live just talking about the different kinds of relationships you need to have in your life and your business. But for now, we're going to just like kind of do the fundamentals. We're going to like lay the groundwork. Cool. Okay. So 3 connection shifts. So the number 1 is shift from collecting contacts to cultivating contacts. From collecting to cultivating. So what does that mean? That means we're focusing on fewer, deeper conversations instead of just random contacts. Okay? Because look, when I was about 20 years old, I did an entrepreneurship class in school. And in order to pass that class, I had to sell $500 of our product or service to a stranger. Now, this was a group project. So of course that meant that I did everything practically myself, including like finding these customers. And look, I was in a town different than I grew up in. I was an engineering student, so I basically lived in my classrooms and I had a small friend group kind of around then. I didn't know anybody that wanted to buy the service that we had come up with. So, cross-legged, I sat down on my bed and I opened the phone book. Okay. Do you remember those phone books? I sat there with my grandmother's cordless, home phone, and I just started at A. And I started smiling and dialing. And then I thought I'd change it up a little bit. So I skipped over a few names. And then I called that number. And then I skipped over a few. Now, I did this every day for about 5 days. And I got somewhere between 30 and 50 calls done per day. But wouldn't you know it, on the 5th day, I found someone who was interested in what we were doing, right? Your issue is never a lack of leads. It's never a lack of opportunities. It's never a lack of human beings. It's how are we connecting? How are we building cultivation with those people? When I found this person, what we were selling, by the way, was science birthday parties for kids. So I found out she was mom, and I found out she had a kid, 5 years old, I think turning 5, turning 6. I think turning 6, and she was looking for birthday party entertainment options. And it was just like perfect because I said, hey, I'm a student and we're doing this thing. And she says, how much is it? Now, the requirement in the class was you had to sell $500 worth. And I was like, oh my God, I've already worked for 5 days. I quoted her $500, right? I just needed to pass the class. That's all I needed to do. That was kind of my first major win in selling and in business and all of that kind of thing. And then, of course, I turned my back on it and worked in corporate for 10 years. But it was such a powerful recognition that there's always people around you. There's always people on your list, and it's in your phone, and it's on your Facebook. It could be on your LinkedIn, your Instagram. It's wherever you already hang out. There's already people who you are connected to, right? So the question is, though, are you having deeper conversations with them, right? Do they understand your investment in them? And are you genuine in that investment? I have this practice where I will send voice memos to my network, and I'll just say, hey, I'm thinking of you. And I think you're really great and I hope XYZ thing that I saw on their social media is going well. And I'm just thinking of them. And that's it. That's all I do, right? I'm not asking for a consult. I'm not asking for a referral. I'm not asking for anything. So, I just did this, right? And I literally got invited over the weekend to go do a speaking engagement in another state just because somebody was like, oh my God, I love this. And a few days later, they came back and they were like, hey, I have this opportunity and I was thinking of you. How organic is that? Like, that's amazing. Now, not everybody does that, but some people do. And the thing is if you want to stay top of mind, it's about being connected and in a real way. Now, this same person, I mean, I've done a lot of things over the years that supported this person. So, it's relational. There's a relationship there, right? It's about the good ship relationship. It's about the ship. Okay. All right. The second thing, and I kind of alluded to it right just now on my practice around the voice memos, is that it's all about pitching versus serving. Okay. So when you make a pitch, it should be an invitation to solve a real problem that someone has. So again, I've got this practice. I'm talking to lots of people. So somebody came back and they were like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this project. And that happens to be a kind of a project that I do help with. So what I did is I first served. full service. I just answered the question, answered it in full in the format as much as possible. Then I included a picture too. I was like, hey, I do this. So here's the next step if you would like my help. And hey, this is my affiliate link. If you'd like the next step, thank you for clicking my link, but you can always Google it if you prefer not to. So again, it's like service. People will buy from you when they believe that you have something valuable to offer. And they will believe that you have something valuable to offer when you offer them something valuable first. This is like, to me, it is relationship 101. Relationship 101 is show up. Show up, right? What does that mean? It means listening, caring, I think. And I mean, we learn this in kindergarten, to share. Now, I'm not saying overextend yourself, So for example, when my friend asked this question, I gave a complete answer, but I didn't spend hours on the answer. I didn't do a bunch of extra bonus research, but sometimes I do that. Sometimes I do extra things. I had one friend, and when I'm saying friend, I mean colleague, professional colleague who is friendly with me and I'm friendly with them and we're supportive of each other. But I had one friend share with me that they were publishing an ebook. And they didn't ask me, but I said, hey, like if you're looking for somebody to read it, I'm happy to read it. They flipped it over. Not only did I read it, I redlined the whole thing. Right? I gave comments and commentary about what I would do, and then I saved it as a new file and I said, feel free to disregard all of this. If this person had given that job to an editor, they probably would have spent $2,000 just on that first edit, and they should still get an editor. That's totally fine. But the thing is like, select your generosity. When you feel like you can really help and you've got the capacity and the bandwidth, like do it. Just do it with no expectation of return from that particular person. Okay? And also, make sure that they know what you can do, right? Make sure they're really clear about what you're building. I think the most reciprocal relationships that I have, the most reciprocal network partners that I have, they always ask, so what are you working on? What's really crazy is I've really upped my intention with this in the past year and a half, really just like amplified my intention around collaboration. It's actually been my word of the year for the past 2 years, is because I really wanted to deepen relationships and have them be really high quality. And I cannot emphasize how often I've had somebody say to me, no one's asked me what I'm working on. No one's asked me what would make this a win. No one's asked me what I'm looking for next. I'm always helping other people. And it's like, look, I get it. Allow me to help you. And the thing is there's an energy around this allowance, allowing yourself to help other people and allowing them to receive it. You also can allow people to give you referrals. You can allow people to say, hey, tap you on the shoulder as well. And it's from that place that I feel I have felt in the last couple of years the most security I've ever felt in my business, because I have such a diversity of relationships now that are supportive, and it's mutually so, right? And it's because it's service first. It's always service first. How do you actually serve in a way that isn't icky, right? Because have any of you just sort of been like, I kind of want to help, but I don't know if I'm overstepping? If you have never struggled with that, but if you've ever struggled with like seeing that somebody's struggling in some way, or seeing that somebody is like pursuing a challenge that you're like, I could totally speed that up for you, boo. Right? Like if you've ever felt that, yeah. Okay, cool. I had a feeling, but I wanted to check that it would be valuable. Okay. The key to serving from a place that's really, really powerful is curiosity. Curiosity, right? Because if you have judgment for their pace, or judgment for the manner that they're pursuing their goal, or judgment for the magnitude of the effort that they're putting forth, or whatever it is, like you see what they're doing and it's clearly wrong. That's actually your judgment and ego. And you might be well right. You could be completely spot on the nose. Yep, totally. Got it. Yeah. But be curious. Ask the question. And actually, I met an example. I just did that for you guys. I was like, do you want to hear this? And you were like, yes, I've struggled with this thing. So then it was just that little bit of feedback loop that told me, okay, now give the answer, right? Give the answer. So the answer is ask more questions, be more curious, and ask how you can help. not just how you can sell. And I'm going to give you a little pro tip on how you offer help. Because has anybody ever experienced like loss in your life? You know, could be loss of a loved one, could be loss of a pet, could be loss of a relationship, loss of a job. Like you've had loss, right? So it's less helpful if somebody is like, how can I help you? Because you're already maxed out. You're already like super exhausted. So I'm going to give you a little pro tip. Hear the thing you're going to do and then verify. So for example, you know, with my friend with the book, I was just like, or, you know, would it be okay if I left you some comments? Like, would you find that actually helpful? And they said yes. And then I did it. Right? Or there's been times where I just like went ahead and did the thing. And then I was like, wait, before I deliver this thing, I'm just going to be curious and I'm going to ask, would it be helpful if I did this? You know, and, you know, let them receive it. Right? Because nobody wants to feel helpless. But also, if you really do need help, sometimes the hardest thing is to voice it, to give voice to the way that you want help. Right? If that was helpful, show helpful in the chat. Because like I always wanted to help, but I lacked language, I think, to give myself the permission to help in the way that I knew that I could in my most genius zone. And when I just started asking permission for the delivery of that help, it was night and day. And people are so appreciative because the thing is you're probably spot on in your intuition. And the very rare time when somebody's like, actually, I've got somebody else handling that for me, or actually, I don't know if now's the right time for that. It gives them a chance to stay in control of their journey. And they still get to hear from you that you tried to help, that you're somebody who wants to help. And that olive branch, you know, it does get remembered even if people don't take it. So first thing was shift from collecting to cultivating. The second was shifting from pitching to serving. The third piece of authentic connection when you're networking, again, this is online, offline, all the time, is shift from being so stoically professional to something a little more personal. Okay. And so what does that look like? It's sharing your real voice. It's sharing your authentic opinion. It's your real stories. And I know when I first started my journey of entrepreneurship, I had a hate relationship with networking. Like for real. I hated it. You know, networking in the corporate context always felt really forced. It always felt kind of goofy. And I think, truth be told, a lot of us on the different projects and everything that I worked on, we already kind of hung out after work anyway. So then to like add formality to it always felt a little weird, a little awkward, and a little forced. But the thing is when I became an entrepreneur, I needed those new relationships to fuel the business, right? Relationships really are the fuel of a coaching business. They really, really are. The thing that I think sabotages even 7-figure coaching businesses, like even 7-figure coaching businesses, is this diversion away from the authenticity of the founder. You know, and it kind of comes back to that awkwardness that I think I felt in the corporate networking environment, where it's like it was really stiff. Nobody talked about anything real. You know, it was like people were kind of in and checking their watch every 4 seconds, you know, and it was just like not great most of the time. But what I realized was that you bring the joy to the rooms that you're in. You know, I learned that from Brendan Burchard. You bring the joy to the rooms that you're in. And when you do that, people actually love connecting with humans. They like real people. And look, there are well, maybe not multi-7, but certainly 7-figure entrepreneurs who they get there. 3 years later, they're gone. Really, 3 years later, they're gone. Why? Because they sacrificed who they are for some persona, and it got old. It got old. Look, running a 7-figure business is actually pretty hard. You know, people kind of in social media will make it sound like it's not that difficult, but you're running team, you're running your programs, you're running, you know, compliance, you're running like all this stuff. And so if on top of that, you have to pretend to be someone you're not, woof, just woof. And the other thing is that when people stumble, and you will stumble. Oh my God, you will stumble, right? I think about that book by Dr. Seuss, Oh, the Places You'll Go, right? you're going to stumble. You're going to have mistakes. You're going to have people say unkind things about you. There's going to be shifts and like, it's a bumpy ride. Life is a bumpy ride. So do you want to have authentic relationships with people, even if you stumble? That they're not going to ghost you all of a sudden. They're not going to disappear just because maybe you're not making as much money, or maybe you're not in the same rooms that you were before. That sounds awful. And that was honestly a really big fear that I had. My business has gone through ups and downs. We've hit, high levels of revenue in short amounts of time. And we've also just kind of hung out here. And we've had things happen over the last 8 years that I did not anticipate as a new coach. Oh my God. And there were things that I had to face and deal with and do that I was just like, really? Wow. Okay. And it's just part of it. It's just part of the journey. But one of the things that the hard times have shown me, more than once, is who your real friends are, right? Are you the kind of person who shows up for somebody even if they have loss, even if they have a mistake? And do you want that in your life? Because that really just kind of drives home the whole reason to be real, right? There's so much hype out there. And if you want to be a hypester and that's authentically you, amazing. But most coaches that I've met, they're not about the hype. They're very grounded. They're very centered. They're very real. And believe it or not, you're going to make way more money and you're going to have much more security and you're going to be far more retained. We haven't even talked about that, but like the lifetime value of your client goes way higher, which is, by the way, the amount of money that you make per coaching relationship. It goes way higher when people trust you. And one of the key ingredients in demonstrating your trust is the consistency and the reliability with which you continue to show up. And this is just not talked about enough. Would you agree with that? Like, it's not talked about enough. It was in the marketing space, is talking about the trust recession and, the big disruption of AI. And I'm like, there's something to be said for trusted human connection, don't you think? It's not about posturing. It's not about putting up a persona that is different than who you really are. It's about being more you, more authentically expressed, more willing to share the unpopular opinion or the contrarian point of view, being more willing to receive criticism for who you are because you're grounded and you're safe and you're good, right? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So remember, you're not building a network. This is the big punchline. You're not just building a network. You're actually building community. You're building connection. And your community can start out super small and it'll grow and radiate out. But you want it to grow with really strong roots. You want it to be very character driven. You want it to be very trust based and very authentic. So in your notes, I'm going to coach you a little bit here. Write down one person you've been meaning to reconnect with or start a convo with, but you haven't done it yet. And then I want you to find a way to reach out. I'm going to give you a few ideas on how you can reach out. My favorite is a voice memo because it's very clearly from me. It's not from an assistant. It's definitely my voice. You could do a little video memo. For a while there, I was obsessed with a software that is, I'm forgetting the name of it, but it's basically like a video message software. You can use Loom for that. BombBomb, that's what it was. BombBomb was the one that I was using, but there's a lot of them, just like video message softwares. You could send a video message. You could write a card. Yeah, you could write a handwritten card or a postcard. You could send a little gift. You could call them. You could write them a lovely email. I think if you're just tired of feeling like you're on an island and you want to build a community instead of just like collecting names and then never doing something with them, make sure you come to our live masterclass on Wednesday because it's a 90-minute webinar that I'm doing, and it's going to be all about what is the system for sustaining your coaching business in the long term. And so much of it is about connection and reliability, but also setting up a system that you can take care of you without feeling like you're leaving all of your community behind, that you can manage your relationships in a way that is very congruent and flowing for both of you, and that you can have really outstanding follow up and follow through with those relationships and to deliver coaching that is outstanding. So if you want to sign up, you can go to impactfulcoach.com. It's going to be this Wednesday, July 3rd at 6 p.m. Central, and registration is totally free. There's no replays, but you can come completely for free. All you got to do is register at impactfulcoach.com, or you can comment the word workshop, and I'll make sure to get you an invitation to that workshop with the Zoom link and the whole bit. And again, that's going to be this Wednesday, 6 p.m. Central. We're going to be talking about how great coaches land great clients and how they do it without the burnout, without having to post like a maniac, without having to sacrifice who you are and your personality, and to build a coaching business that you really and truly love. So I hope to see you in class. And until then, have an amazing Monday. We will be back next week. And just remember, the right relationships are going to be the thing that changes your business for the better. While we're here, I'm going to let you know next week's topic, because we're going to be here at 9 a.m. Central as always. And let's see, we are going to be talking about how to stay relentless and resilient in your coaching journey. So I can't wait to dive into that topic with you next week. But until then, I will see you in the socials, and I'll see you in our programs, and we'll see you very soon.